My name is Erin Larson and I'm a poet and writer. I live in Nottingham. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And the books I publish are with my partner, Jonathan Van Halst. We have a press called Miel, and we also publish a literary magazine called 1110.
What does Miel mean?
It means honey. Yeah.
How did the name come about?
I'm really interested in bees and honey as a kind of food stuff, and also as an image that's been persistent through a long span of time and across many cultures. And I lived in France before I came to the UK. I wanted to have a name for the press that wasn't an English name, so that people wouldn't associate it with the connotations of the word in English, but it would just be itself. And so when I started thinking about the press, Miel was kind of the word that just rose to the top.
How many books have you published so far?
3 books and 3 issues of the magazine.
And the 3 books that you published, which ones are these?
They're all poetry. One is Nila Delschaft's book, I Come Home and I Move Differently. One is Larissa Dickey's book, Companions, Core of Discovery. And the other one is also by Larissa Dickey, and it is a pictorial history of wilderness. One obvious similarity when you pick up the books is that they are not very formal. The poems have their own forms, but they are not forms determined by a historical concept of form. But I think for me the similarity is also that both poets are interested in language as a thing, what it can do, what it can and cannot communicate, the points where the ability of language to do something stops. And also I think similar across the 3 books is their attention, that both poets have a really focused way of being with whatever they are experiencing in the poem. They're about migration. They're about moving from the place where you were born and you are familiar into places where you are strange and foreign, don't belong, don't know how to live there, have to figure out ways of living there.
And the magazine?
Magazine.
Yeah. When did that start?
It started last spring. Last March was the first issue. So I started working on it last October. No. October 2010 I started working on it. March 2011 the first issue came out. September 2011 the second issue came out, and just now the 3rd issue.
And how many? Where are your contributors coming from?
Well, for the books, Nila is German but lives in Nottingham. And before she lived in Nottingham, she was living in Canada and the Netherlands. Larissa is American from Tennessee and lives in Berlin. The magazine, we have had people from England, the US. A lot of the contributors are from the US because I'm from the US and that's kind of where my networks are. But also from New Zealand, Germany. That's
And then, as a publisher, what would you say are the main challenges that you face?
I think that they are kind of on either side of the publisher. You have the writers that you want to find and the readers that you want to find. I think finding the writers that you want and finding the readers that you want, that's the challenges. How do you find people who will care for your books and see the importance in them and read them? And how do you find writers whose work is doing what you really care about, that you want to put your work and time into supporting? So that for me is the challenge.
And how do you do it?
Oh, how do you do it? You tell me. I don't know. I just read read as much as I can, and on Twitter I follow lots of different journals, so I'm always seeing who is being published where and what new voices there are, and I try to pay attention to groups of people and writers whose voices aren't heard in the mainstream. So I'm interested in publishing people who are not white, people who are not men, people who are not necessarily straight or don't have a kind of singular way of viewing the world. So I try to pay attention to people in those communities and see what's happening as much as I can. And as far as readers, yeah, that is my worst point. I don't know how to find readers. I just make the work, try to get it out there. I have a friend who helps me do PR, and then we try to guide the books to new homes.
Now, with the writers that you work with, are there some that you find particularly exciting?
Yeah, well, I really love, in September, well, I love all the writers, right? But in September, there's an American writer, his name is Josh Wallace, and we're going to publish a chapbook of his poems, and I'm really excited about those because I just find him an absolutely kind of the clarity that he writes with, and the within his writing, the feeling of directness of thought and kind of purpose. I really feel attached to that, interested in that. But at the same time, I feel that actually is something I'm attracted to in the writing of all the people that I end up publishing. I'm attracted to writers who write with a kind of very probing attention to their subjects.